You are looking at the man, the myth, the legend. And no, I'm not talking about Skip Smith of the Villages in Florida. This is Captain Thunderbolt here in the beautiful town of Uralla in New South Wales. And this is Frederick Wordsworth Ward, 1835 to 1870, better known by the self-styled pseudonym of Captain Thunderbolt. And he was an Australian bushranger renowned for escaping from Cockatoo Island and also for his reputation as the gentleman bushranger and his lengthy survival being the longest roaming bushranger in Australian history. So folks, I'm going to do a little walk and talk here in Uralla, and as I do, I'm going to share with you the fact that as I was recording this video, I didn't know it, but I had actually switched to a different setting on the camera. So when I went to process this film, it was all in slow motion and there was absolutely no video, or no audio I should say. So I didn't want to let the video go to waste, and I thought I would just do some narration after the fact, and I'll do the best I can. I don't believe that I'm going to possibly narrate the entire video, but we'll see. And here is the Uralla Visitor Information Center. And you can tell by the flag there was a chill in the air. The wind was blowing. And I had gone into the visitor center here just to see if it was open, and there was a very nice gentleman in there that was kind enough to tell me that it was more than okay to come in and do some filming inside. And you'll see him as I just step right inside the visitor center door here. It really is worth the stop, the town of Uralla. And here you'll see some pictures that kind of give you an idea as to what the area is all about. And there's one picture here of a gentleman panning for gold. But as I walk through the visitor center here, I'll share just a little bit more information with you about Uralla. It's a town on the northern tablelands, New South Wales, Australia. The town's located at the intersection of the New England Highway and Thunderbolt's Way, which is 465 kilometers or 189 miles north of Sydney, and just north of the town of Armadale, where I was staying for the better part of a week, and actually woke up the morning that I was going to do this video here. So the town at the 2016 census, the Township of Uralla had a population of 2,388 people. Here you can see they've got some wine in the area. A lot of agriculture in this part of, a lot of agriculture throughout Australia. There you see some honey and some jam there. But the city was established in 1855, or should I say the township. And there you can see you can get all types of books and stuff on Captain Thunderbolt. And I should actually mention that my good friend Carlo down in Melbourne, and when I told him I was going to go see Captain Thunderbolt, he wasn't too familiar. He was the one that told me about another famous outlaw in Australia called Ned Kelly. And here I'm going to go around and show you some of the minerals that you might, minerals or rocks or geology that you might get. There it says Anawan country, known and interpreted boundaries. So the city is 91 kilometers north of Tamworth, which is another city that I visited. And if you look at the temperatures, the mean max temperature is about 19.7 or 67 degrees Celsius, and the mean min temperature is about 6.3 or 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And rainfall, they get about 803 millimeters a year, or 31, just under 32 inches of rain. But at more than 1,000 meters above sea level, Uralla's high altitude makes for cool to cold winters and mild summers. It boasts a rich history. Uralla has more than 50 buildings and sites of heritage significance which can be easily explored on foot or by vehicle. The community collectively bought and restored McCrossan's Mill, which I'll share with you in just a moment. Here you can see where it is. I'm going to point. There's Sydney right there. So Sydney is down, to give you some perspective. Sydney was down there, and there's the green marker on the map, or the green thumbtack up there on the map as to where it is. So the community collectively bought and restored McCrossan's Mill, which we're going to step outside here and see, in the 1980s and 1990s. Here's a view of the street as I'm coming out of the visitor center. There you see Captain Thunderbolt's statue right there. And no streetlights in this town, at least no streetlights that I was able to see. But McCrossan's Mill, which I'll share with you in just a moment, it's now a multi-award-winning museum, gallery, and function center, still run by volunteers. It's also the starting point for the Heritage Walk. So I don't know if I have any information here on McCrossan's Mill. Perhaps I will be able to do just a quick search and give you some information about McCrossan's Mill. See if I can't actually do that. Let's see here. The McCrossan's Mill is a heritage listed. I think we're going to come down to it here in just a moment here as I walk across the street. Should be coming up on McCrossan's Mill. But the McCrossan's Mill is a heritage listed former mill and store, and now a museum at Salisbury Street. And this would be Salisbury Street right here. It was designed by John McCrossan and built by unknown. The property is owned by the Uralla Historical Society, and that would be it right there. There's McCrossan's Mill. It was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on April 2nd, 1999. And read a little bit about the history. The mill was constructed between the late 1860s and early 1870s by John McCrossan. It's equipped with a 16 horsepower engine. The mill operated 3 millstones with production capacity of around 1,000 bushels a week. McCrossan built the mill in the expectation that the New England region would become a major exporter of flour to other parts of the colony. Soon after the completion of the mill, however, flour prices began to fall. McCrossan could not compete with 2 other mills already established in Uralla, and the further 4 in Armadale, and 1 in Inverell, and 1 in Walcha. Drought and the importation of higher quality South Australian flour killed the New England wheat growing and therefore the milling business. So there is your McCrossan's Mill right there. And then I believe the next building, if I'm not mistaken, was the that was the stable or the blacksmith shop or something like that. You see, I'll go in and I think I'll go in here in just a moment and share the inside with you. I'm not quite sure what that building was. I'm sure if you were to look on Google Maps, you would be able to see exactly what that building was. But this building here, maybe this is the building here that was the stable or the livery or something like that. Let me see, maybe I can zoom in a little bit here, and I'm actually looking on the map. Google, you're going to have to accept my apology because I'm trying to narrate this after the fact, and it's just not so easy. Now I was walking in here to do this, and I see these dogs sitting back there, and I didn't know whether I was about to be lunch or not, and they were just a couple of old dogs that were tied up, and I think the owner was inside tending to I think it was an antique shop or something, just just inside. So no, they don't. I think their bark is worse than their bite. I don't even think they have a bark. So not too much to worry about. But anyway, you can see this is here's the building. It's quite old, and inside was like an antique store, if you will. But going back out, I'm going to go back out, I think, here in just a moment and walk you down the main street, and I'll tell you a little bit about the history of Uralla. The word Uralla was taken by the European squatters from the language of the local Anawan tribe of indigenous Australians. Uralla described a meeting place, or more especially a ceremonial meeting place and lookout on a hill. During the early 1960s, children at the Uralla Public School were taught that the name Uralla was an indigenous word which meant chain of waterholes. This is an accurate description of the waterway which runs through the town. However, it is not known whether it has been verified by indigenous linguistic studies. Samuel McCrossan, an Irishman, his wife, and seven children first came to Uralla in 1839 when they camped on the creek there. They returned to Morpeth, and then again returned to Uralla in 1841 to finally settle there. In the 1830s and 40s, the land was occupied by squatters who had moved north beyond the limits of the settlement. The squatters were attracted by the prime sheep grazing land of the New England tableland. There you go. You see these trucks going by a lot of times with sheep in the back. Some of the squatting runs were Kentucky, Gostwick, Ballala, Yarrowick, Meehee Creek, Terrible Vale, and Salisbury Court. Some of these station buildings, including the Ballala and the Gostwick Chapel, have been placed on the register of the National Estate. Some of the land occupied by these squatters was made available to smaller farmers after the passing of the Robertson Land Acts in 1861. Uralla reached town status in 1855, spurred on by a gold rush in the Rocky River area 3 years earlier, swelling the town size to over 5,000. In 1856, another and more considerable gold rush took place, but did not lead to any lasting development. By 1859, Uralla had 3 hotels, stores, a post office, a flour mill, and a school. The Uralla municipality was incorporated in 1882. In 1948, it became the administrative center of the Uralla Shire, after the municipality was merged with the former Gostwick Shire. More gold was discovered and mined at Melrose and in the Enmore area in about 1887. The discovery led to the erection of the Melrose Public School and Village, which was about 32 kilometers east of Uralla. In 1927, the area was subdivided for soldier settlement, and ballots were held to determine the new settlers. And in 1889, gold was discovered at Gross's Creek. And as I come up here, I'm going to share a look at this little tin that you see here for Anzac biscuits. So this was an antique store, and if you wanted to, you could buy yourself a nice little tin, new Anzac. You can see oatmeal cookies. So I've had more than my share of Anzac cookies during my stay here in Australia over the last four weeks. You could get yourself some china there as well if you wanted to. But in 1889, gold was discovered at Gross's Creek, which is about 6 kilometers southwest of Enmore, near the Meehee Falls on the eastern side of Uralla. The infamous bushranger Captain Thunderbolt, who I was talking about earlier, is buried in the old Uralla Cemetery on John Street. There are many references to Thunderbolt throughout the town, and the locals are quite fond of the legend. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a woman in one of the little shops, and she was proud to tell me that he was shot on her property. And when I asked if he was a bad guy, they were quick to dispel that idea that he was a bad guy. But they said he was kind of like Robin Hood. Here you see another building here that would be on the historic tour. I'm not sure what number that is, but you see that. Let's see here, Main Street. So Main Street, Uralla is host to a pub, a motel, a rock from where Thunderbolt ambushed passing travelers, and roads all bearing his name. On the 25th of May in 1870, Thunderbolt was shot and killed near Uralla by Constable Alexander Walker during a highway robbery. However, a few Uralla locals claim that it was his uncle, William Ward, posing as Thunderbolt, who was killed at this time, and not Fred Ward. The legend of Thunderbolt is exhibited at McCrossen's Mill Museum in Uralla and includes the series of 9 paintings by Philip Pomeroy of the events that led to Fred Ward's death. As I cross the street, there's my car right there with the Queensland plates on it. I've been traveling all over New South Wales and Victoria with Queensland plates during this pandemic, and more than once people have kind of asked me how I got out of Queensland into New South Wales or Victoria. And here I come back onto the main street here. And what other information that I share with you? This is the abattoir, I think they call it, the butcher. I think they call the butchers down here an abattoir or something of those likes. You see, there's the Dale's downtown. You know, you can get yourself all types of nice cuts of meats and small goods. And here's somebody out walking their dogs. You can see from the way that she's dressed how cool it is. And as I'm coming up here just a little ways, I'm going to come to a busy pie shop, if you will. And there are a lot of people just sitting here, waiting to get their pie here on a chilly Saturday morning. You can see the name of the business. It's called the Pie Mechanic. And there was a photograph just inside the window here that I had noticed, and it was quite the photograph. Whoever took the picture caught a rather wonderful moment in a bike race. I'm not too sure what the bike race was, but I'm going to try to stick my camera in here and give you a shot as a woman walks out with her pie. There's the pies you can get. You see, you can get a moo, which is humble beef. You can get the what is that? The New England pie and onion. The Deer Hunter venison bite with red wine. But let me see if I can get my camera in here and show you this picture as this couple just walks in there to get their pie. But look at this picture here. They captured the moment. You see that guy in his shirt off and the guy on his bike, and what a moment, what a moment in time that must have been. They must have had a big party that night, I would imagine. But it was quite an interesting picture, and I thought it would be cool to share that with you. But anyway, so that is a good portion of the town here. And looking at, as far as the industries go, the 3 foundries account for a large amount of the employment in town, as do other metal manufacturing businesses. As Uralla is situated about halfway between Sydney and Brisbane, or as they call it here, Brizzy, tourism contributes significantly to its economy, with a thriving village atmosphere and about 20 national parks within a 2-hour drive. Due to Uralla's proximity to Armidale, larger shopping chains have avoided the small town, and independent retailers remain. Examples include an antiquarian bookstore, numerous galleries, antique stores, and cafes. And I think that right there would be a hotel, perhaps. You can still pan for gold in the rivers around the town, including Rocky River. Today, the area is used for raising merino sheep and is renowned for its superfine and ultrafine wool for use in the fashion industry. Now this is a cafe that I had actually had breakfast in, and it was a wonderful breakfast. I had some pancakes that were soaked in honey or drizzled in honey and all types of berries. But it was just what a wonderful little cafe. Here's a place where you can come in and park your bike there in Uralla. But that's just about the end of the main street. And I wish I could tell you the name of that. It was on the side of the building, and my memory just forsakes me. But that's your tour of the main street, or the better part of the main street in Uralla. As you see a gentleman coming down here with a caravan, and that's what they call those in Australia. They'll call them caravans, whereas in America we would call them an RV or a camper. Down here in Australia, it's a caravan. So you won't see an RV park. You'll see a caravan park. As I come across this other building just up from the cafe, a lot of these buildings have these just wonderful wrought iron balconies that you can see up there. But anyway, so we got one more stop, and it's a rather interesting stop as well. But here we go. And this would be the grave of Captain Thunderbolt right here. And I found my way over to the graveyard, and quite a historic graveyard, to say the very least. An old graveyard, and the community buried Thunderbolt right here. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I took the camera and gave you a little bit closer look at the headstone just up here where Thunderbolt lies. And you can see people bring some flowers by, interestingly enough. There it is, right there. Erected by New England residents to mark where lies Thunderbolt, Fred Ward. So there you have it, folks. You know, always interesting to be able to share a historic site such as that with you, and to give you the context of the graveyard. Look at this graveyard, just quite old, and I don't know if I have the opportunity to read some of these after the fact, but there's Daniel Francis Donahue, what, aged 23 years, 1902 he passed, and erected by his loving mother right there. So alright, so there's your tour of Uralla and the grave and the Uralla graveyard. Goodness gracious. So may all these souls rest in peace, and hope you enjoyed this tour of Uralla. Definitely worth the stop. Go in and get yourself some of those wonderful pancakes with the drizzling of honey over the top, and some wonderful berries. Alright, so as they say down here in Australia, good day, mates, or good on ya. Take your pick of one of my two favorite expressions. Alright, have a wonderful day.